Who's up for some free land? Sounds enticing, doesn't it? Historically, numerous countries have offered free land, particularly sparsely populated areas, with the notion that if citizens owned the land, they would maintain it and pay taxes, alleviating the burden on the government. The United States has had several such programs throughout its history. In the late 1800s, they held land rushes where participants could register, pay a small fee, and receive a flag. People would gather in a designated area, usually somewhere west of Oklahoma City, line up, and wait for the cannon to fire. Once it did, they would rush across the plains, find a pre-placed flag, plant their own, and claim the land. Before we dive in, let me clarify that I'm just providing information. However, I won't fill out forms for you, loan you the registration fee, get on a call with you, send pictures of my feet, help you find these properties on realtor.com, or marry your relatives so they can move to the US. I'm just the messenger. Almost said, massager, there. Number 10, Kansas. Like many states on this list, Kansas is sparsely populated with lots of available land and towns in decline. These are usually small farming towns that were once bustling, but as fewer people are needed on farms and other factors come into play, people have moved away, leaving these towns struggling. Currently, 3 small towns in Kansas are offering free land. The first is Plainville, Kansas, which has been losing population since the 1960 census. That was the last time they saw a population increase, maxing out at 3,100 residents in 1960. Now, they're down to 1,746, so they've got plenty of land and not many people. This town is in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by prairies and farmland. The nearest city of decent size is Topeka, over 3 hours away. Then there's Lincoln, Kansas, about an hour east of Plainville, with similar population statistics. They currently have about 1,100 residents, according to 2020 data. The last significant population gain was in 1960 with a 5% increase, followed by a steady decline. Osborne, Kansas, is another town on the list with similar numbers, currently home to around 1,300 residents. Number 9, Nebraska. Nebraska is much like Kansas, just further north. If you're from either state, you likely know the differences, but for most people, they're similar. It's like how I grew up in Redondo Beach, next to Hermosa Beach. They both have beaches, and though I know the differences, a visitor wouldn't notice when one city ends, and the other begins. Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa are quite alike in my view. Nebraska offers various relocation packages, including tax breaks and incentives to move to specific cities, such as Curtis, Beatrice, and Elwood. In the past, they had about 6 cities offering such programs, but some have since been put on hold or canceled. Beatrice is a larger town with 12,000 residents, located south of Lincoln, Nebraska. Elwood, on the other hand, is much smaller, with only 658 residents, and the population seems to decrease weekly. One of the biggest issues in Elwood is that about 30% of the population is over 65 years old. Curtis, located a few hours west of Lincoln, has about 800 residents, and though they saw a population increase of nearly 133% in 2010, they experienced a 14.2% decline by 2020. Number 8, Colorado. We've mentioned Flagler, Colorado, before. It's located east of Denver, almost in Kansas. Flagler is a place where you could easily film a Great Depression-era movie without needing to do much set dressing. The town has a lot of old barns, buildings, and open roads flanked by fields and telephone poles. However, this program is slightly different. They offer free land incentives, but only for businesses, not residential use. There's no plumbing or electricity on this land, so if you acquire it and want to start a business, you'll need to pay for utility connections and hire an electrician and plumbers. I've visited Flagler, and like many others, I ended up there because I needed a bathroom break. The trip taught me a lesson. Always know where someone lives before agreeing to drive them home. In my case, it was an army situation, and while I knew it would be an all-day event, I didn't anticipate a 2-day journey. And to answer the question you're probably thinking, the person lived in Goodland, Kansas, about 3 hours from Colorado Springs. I ended up having dinner with them, spending the night, and being slightly unnerved by their aunt's severe lazy eye. She'd be talking to me but looking elsewhere.
Number 7. Iowa.
Of course, Iowa is on this list. It's much like Kansas and Nebraska. They're offering free land because, honestly, why else would someone move to Iowa unless they're a farmer, dodging subpoenas, or trying to get away from family members they'd rather not see? About 3 or 4 years ago, when I first covered this, Iowa had around 8 programs offering free land in various towns across the state.
Now, most of those have shut down.
As of 2023, only 3 towns still have active programs: Oola, Manila, and Marne.
Marne has just 120 residents, Oola about 5,000, and Manila around 1,300. Marne and Manila are on the west side of the state,
not far from Omaha, Nebraska, while Oola is in the center-south part of the state, just south of Des Moines. I poke fun at Iowa a lot because it's a pretty dull state. Those are just the facts. But the truth is, many people seek that kind of lifestyle. They don't need excitement, they just want to live peacefully. Iowa is perfect for that, with friendly and helpful people, especially in rural areas. If you were to trip and fall on a sidewalk in Red Oak, Iowa, I guarantee that within seconds, 5 people would rush to help you up. That's just the kind of place it is. Red Oak isn't on this list, but it does have the cutest downtown area with a little park in the middle, like a town square surrounded by businesses.
Manila, Marne, and Oola are lovely small towns offering free or nearly free land. You just need to fill out some paperwork and promise to stay for a couple of years. Number 6. Minnesota. Minnesota has been on this list before. I know Richland and Claremont were mentioned previously, but I'm not sure about the others. Minnesota is one of the better states for free land. It's not as flat and treeless as much of Iowa, Kansas, and Nebraska. You'll find more trees, ponds, creeks, rivers, and lakes around Minnesota. After all, it's known as the land of 10,000 lakes. Several towns offer free land programs, along with other incentives like free electrical hookups, building permits, and more, to help you get started. As of 2023, towns like Claremont, Halleck, which wasn't on the previous list, Argyle, Middle River, and Richland are participating. That's a good way to keep up with whether the programs are still active. Always come back to this video and check the links if you're watching it years from now. Number 5. Buffalo, New York.
This is the first location where I'd suggest looking elsewhere. Buffalo has had significant crime issues for years, and they've been worsening. Additionally, Buffalo is one of the snowiest cities in the US, so if you're not fond of shoveling snow, it's not the place for you. If you're a die-hard Buffalo Bills fan, it might be an option, but trust me, you've got to be a serious fan to move to this city just to watch the Bills.
This program in Buffalo has been running for decades.
It requires you to fix any code violations on the property, which in many cases is a rundown house. You must complete the repairs within 18 months to take ownership of the land and live there for at least 3 years. After that, you'll receive the deed to the property. It requires some elbow grease, but you'll get a free house and land. Is it worth it?
Not in my opinion. I prefer living in Portland, where snow is a rare treat rather than a constant burden. Number 4. Allegheny County, Pennsylvania.
The Allegheny County Vacant Property Recovery Program offers land to organizations, nonprofits, and similar entities if they can demonstrate the capacity to implement a plan and bring the property up to standard. I'm not entirely sure of all the details, and it seems that the conditions change frequently, but there's land to be had for free here.
I would suggest contacting someone in the area to clarify the current requirements. Number 3. Tennessee.
Tennessee has become a popular destination recently, and there's no shortage of free land offers in this state. While the number of programs has decreased since my last update, Tennessee has done an excellent job providing low-cost or free land for new residents.
Tennessee is thriving, making it one of the best states to move to.
The state offers free land to families and businesses alike, and unlike many other states, they offer a variety of packages depending on your circumstances.
I found 6 different programs throughout the state. 3 are in small towns, 1 in Jackson, and 2 in rural areas. Number 2. Maine. They're still giving away land in Maine, and who wouldn't want to move there? Okay, maybe a lot of people wouldn't, but if you're into outdoorsy activities like hiking, mountain biking, hunting, and fishing, Maine is your kind of place. Some rural Maine towns, with declining populations, are trying to attract new residents by offering land and other incentives. These small towns have a lot to offer, especially for those who enjoy a slower pace of life. I've visited Maine, and although it wouldn't be my first choice, I can see why many would find it appealing. The program in Maine focuses on small towns, including Millinocket, with 4,200 residents, and Rockland, with just under 7,000. Both towns have been losing population since 2010. There's also the Rural Reboot program, which offers land and other incentives in even smaller communities. Number 1, Michigan. Michigan has the most places offering free land right now. While many states have reduced their free land programs, Michigan is still going strong, particularly in the northern part of the state and the Upper Peninsula. These areas are experiencing population decline, especially in the Up, where it feels like everyone's leaving. The southern parts of Michigan, near cities like Grand Rapids, Detroit, and Ann Arbor, aren't in decline, but many small towns in the north and Up are. If you're considering relocating to Michigan, you'll find numerous opportunities to get free or cheap land in those areas. Towns offering these programs include Manistee, Ironwood, and Marquette. Manistee has a small town feel with about 6,000 residents and offers beautiful scenery with forests, rivers, and Lake Michigan nearby. Ironwood is a town of about 5,000 people in the Upper Peninsula, offering plenty of outdoor activities like skiing and hiking. Marquette is the largest city in the Upper Peninsula with about 20,000 residents, and while they aren't giving away land, they offer a substantial number of incentives, including tax breaks, grants, and low-interest loans, to attract new residents and businesses.